It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If it looks a little dark, that's because there's a hurricane about 100 miles that way, or what's left of it. While we don't think it's going to affect us a whole lot, this is a very good opportunity for us to show you some of the ways that we prepare for inbound storms. So if you have a big storm headed your way, we're going to cover a couple things in this video of how to deal with that. Hi, I just wanted to jump in really quick and point out that this was filmed a couple of days ago when the remnants of Hurricane Elsa were on the other side of the state. Hurricanes are not something to be taken lightly. We feel for those who were affected. Fortunately, we were not affected very much at all. We're fine, our garden is fine. We did have a couple of tornadoes touch down not too far from us, but fortunately we were spared any major issues. We hope that no one ever has to deal with a situation where you're hit directly with a hurricane, but we're all affected by the weather, and we wanted to share a little bit about how we deal with it. If we were really worried about a storm, or one was coming our way, one of the very first things we would do is to take down all of these shade cloths. They're basically a wind sail, and if you get a good storm rip through here, they're either going to rip the cloths, or the wind is going to pull the cloth so much that it's going to rip down the trellises. So that's the first thing we would normally do. I know that we're not going to get that much wind this time, so I'm not going to do that. The next thing we would do is any fruit that is almost ripe or is ripe, don't leave it out for the storm. The storm's just going to batter it and knock it off. So we're going to prune off some of our last cucumbers and tomatoes and maybe some watermelon. So we have a couple of our last cucumbers here. We're going to get those down so the storm doesn't get them. This is our watermelon trellis. We've got one that's almost ready, one that's probably ready, and we've got another one over on the ground over here that I know is ready. I'm not worried about the one on the ground because it's on the ground. I don't have to worry about the wind. This one here, however, they're pretty heavy and it's only held on by a couple of strings. I'm going to go ahead and take this one so I don't have to worry about it. I can see I'm going to have to cut that out later. If you have any plants that you're actively guiding on a trellis, make sure that they're where you want them to be and that they're going to stay there for the coming storm. So we use tomato clips to make sure that our Seminole pumpkins are winding through the trellis the way that we want to. And you just want to go through before the storm hits and get them all locked down on the ends so that the storm doesn't blow them around and break them. So just checking all of those. Those are all fine. And now we're going to take a look at the blackberries and their trellising. So with our blackberries, we use a Florida weave system, which is simply strings suspended between two posts, and then the blackberries are woven through the strings. You just want to make sure that everything's tucked in there that you can, and the strings will give them a little bit of play in the wind, but also give them the support they need so they don't get thrashed. So we're just making sure that everything is in there that needs to be. This one kind of snuck out. We'll tuck him back in. That should get them through the storm happily. Now for our last little bits of trellising, we're going to go take a look at our cucumbers again. Most of our cucumbers are on their very last legs. We're going to pull out most of them and replace them with newer plants. If you're at the point where you're not going to get any more really productive growth out of a plant and you've got a storm coming, just go ahead and pull the plant. It's one more thing that the wind can grab and pull on your trellises. If you know that you're not going to get any more decent fruit out of them, just get them off the trellis so the trellis has a better chance of making it through the storm. So I'm going to go through now and pull a bunch of our cucumbers that aren't doing so well. So if we were getting a lot more storm, the next thing I would do is trim out a bunch of our beans, because they're going to do the same thing as the cucumbers. They're basically just a giant sail and the wind can catch them. So I would pull out about half of those if I really knew we were going to get hit, just to let air get through it instead of grabbing them and pushing them on the trellis. But I know that we're not going to get that much, so I'm going to leave that one there. And that's really all we do, is we clean up things that'll catch the wind, we make sure nothing's going to get blown around, and we get any fruit that's almost ripe or ripe, we get them off the vines so that we can get them instead of the storm tearing them up. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Stay safe.